So for the past few days, it's pretty much just been raining nonstop, and while I don't really need to go outside, it's also just like kind of cold and crappy all the time. I actually still need to clean up the garage a little bit so that I can actually pull the car into the garage and not leave it out in the rain. So that's probably what we're gonna do towards the end of today's video, but to start off, I'm just gonna go ahead and pull the front of the car in so we can start installing the next mod. Alright, so as some of you guys know, I recently installed the Halo fog lights on the Mustang, and they look really good, but it kind of makes the front of this car look a little bit incomplete because those are still the stock headlights. So I went ahead and I got some Halo headlights that we're going to be installing, and I think they're going to look pretty sweet. I've had this box sitting in my house for like months now, and I just hadn't gotten around to doing this one yet because there were so many other mods that were taking priority. And then of course, the week that I wanted to do this, Jason showed up with like 2 mods that we had to do, so this has just been being put off for way too long, but finally getting around to it today.
I like your sticker, man.
Hey, thank you. Okay, so these lenses are actually so dark that you guys can barely even see the light in there. There we go. I didn't realize that these were that smoked. I knew that they were smoked lenses, but I didn't realize how dark that was. Got it. I don't actually know what brand these lights are because I bought them on eBay. I'm kind of taking a risk with them, but I've seen some reviews and apparently they hold up pretty good. And honestly, at this point, anything is better than these stock headlights. So I'm gonna start pulling this front bumper off and then we'll install them. It shouldn't take too long. And also, to get the lights to have power, I'm actually gonna link them up to the current Halo switch. For these Halos, there's like a wire that's already set up, so I'm just gonna tap into that power source for the outside Halos, and then when I flip that switch on, I'll have all 4 Halos light up. That was disgusting. The splitter is covered in mud, and now so am I. This thing is like Yoda pulled the thing out of the swamps on the Dagobah system. I hate pulling the bumper off of this car. The way that the brackets from the chassis itself mount to the bumper is such a pain in the ass because to get these off, you have to like pull the fender liner back. And ideally, I guess I would have put the car on jack stands, but I really just didn't feel like taking off the wheels just to get the bumper off. And I feel like that's kind of a common consensus. I feel like that's a little bit excessive, but nonetheless, the bumper is off. So now I'm gonna start pulling these headlights out of here. Alright boys, so the lights are in. I think they're looking pretty sweet. That one's kind of shaded. Definitely a much better look than the stock light. Those ones are old and crappy, and these ones are nice and shimmery. Also, the rain is just non-stop. It's starting to get dark out, but it's okay because we have the power of the sun right here, so we're gonna keep going. So to make the Halo work, it has this little LED management box thing right here. So I think I'm gonna stick this onto the actual headlight itself right here because there's actually not anything that goes over here, so it's kind of the perfect spot. And then I'm gonna run these wires over and I'm gonna splice them into these. So these are the power and ground wires for my Halo fog lights, so I'm gonna go ahead and connect them to these wires. And instead of doing the soldering and heat shrink, I'm actually gonna use these little wire connectors, but that's just because these fog lights are not super permanent. I know they look cool, but I'm gonna change up the front of the Mustang pretty soon actually, so this isn't super permanent, but this is going to be the power source for now. The way that these little power connectors work is there's 2 slots in them, and one of them, the side is open for both slots, and then the other side, you can see one of them is walled off, so that's going to be the wire that you want to connect. So I'm going to go ahead and pull the end of this power off, and then put it in the side that stops. Now the other side of this little connector is the side that you're going to want to run the wire that you want to splice to through. So I'll show you what I mean in just a second. Alright, so I've got the connector onto the wire. So the red wire is the power wire and the yellow is going to be the ground. So as you can see, the red wire from the light itself, that's going into the channel that has a dead end. And then the red wire that's the continuous one for the circuit, that's the one that's going through the continuous channel. So now, to splice them, all you do is you just click this closed. And now, when I turn the switch on, that LED ring should turn on. So I'm gonna go ahead and test it. Just kidding, you have to connect the ground too. I forgot to mention that. Connect the ground and the power. I flipped it on and I was like, what? Why isn't it working? So I'm gonna test it again. They're still not working. Okay, yeah, so I've been tracing this problem for a little bit. I'm not exactly sure why, but that power and ground source that I connected is not powering the halo, so I'm gonna do some R&D, and then I'll be back with you guys in a second. Okay, so I did a little bit of testing and the lights are fine. I guess those little blue connectors just don't work. So I thought that maybe I could finally have an install where I didn't have to solder some connections, but I guess that's just not my luck. Something I thought was kind of funny is that this little piece of foam says GT on it, just in case you forgot that this is not just an ordinary Mustang, it's a Mustang GT. Doug DeMuro jokes aside, I'm gonna run this wire along this frame rail, so I have the power and ground wire coming out to here. It's kind of running through these little holes in the frame rail, which worked out kind of nicely. And then they poke out here, so then I'll solder a power and a ground. I'll run them underneath the piece of GT foam, and then they'll come over, connect to this side so that it links as one circuit, and then I'll run the power and ground wires somewhere into somewhere over there. I'll figure that out in a minute. Okay boys, that was kind of a pain, although it wasn't so bad. So I've got the wires running down here, they're connected to the longer extensions, they go underneath the GT foam, and then they come over here. I've got the wires from this one coming down through the frame rail, through this hole, they link up to the extensions, and then they wire into the power and ground for the halo lights on the fog lights. So now, when I turn that switch on, the halos should come on. And these better freaking come on, because if they don't come on, I'm gonna fucking throw a fit. And it is like fully nighttime outside now. It's only like 5 p.m. Oh, I saw some light. I gotta double check it. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, heck yeah. Son of a bitch. Okay, luckily nothing was damaged. The headlight just slipped down because I hadn't put the bolts back in it yet. But I've inspected it. Everything's working. Both the headlights are working. Both the halos are working. So I'm going to go ahead and just start putting the bumper back on. And by the way, it is freezing out here and my hands are like turning red. So if you haven't hit the like button, please press the like button on this video. Do it for my hands. They'll appreciate you. All right, let's get to it. Here's the first look with all 4 of the halos lit up. I think this is looking super awesome. Definitely worth it. I should have done this sooner, but you know, it is what it is. It's done now. Damn. I'm really happy with how this is turning out. I'm gonna go ahead and throw all the bolts back in and then maybe take some cinematic shots. There it is, boys. There's the finished product. I honestly felt like this install wasn't too bad, except for the little brackets that hold the bumper up. But other than that, this is a pretty easy mod to install. I think that having the 4 halos across the front is kind of an iconic look for the S197. I mean, there's some other things that I've seen people do, like maybe a fog light delete, but I honestly think that keeping the fog lights is definitely worth it on this car. Definitely leave a comment down below if you guys want to see more like maybe wiring tutorials or more light installs, because I know that a lot of that isn't very intuitive, and I think a lot of car enthusiasts say that they love doing the mechanical stuff, but their least favorite thing is working on lights and wiring, and they just like pay other people to do it. But I think that there's just not a lot of super great information about how to wire up lights online, and I've done a lot of digging to try to figure out how to do this sort of thing, so I think I kind of have some ideas on how I can teach you guys. But if that's something you'd be interested in, either DM me on Instagram or just leave a comment down below. Alright, that's all I had planned for today's video. It's a little bit short and sweet, but I have some more videos coming soon, so if you haven't already, make sure you leave a like down below and consider subscribing for more car content. Last night the channel bumped up from like 600 to 700 subs, so if you're new here, thank you so much for subscribing, and thank you for coming along for the journey. As always, I'll see you guys next time. Peace out, and dream big.